What's going on, fellas? Bel Air here. We're back after a couple of day break. Sorry, I wish I had a better excuse, but really what we were doing was just overthinking the content that we're doing, you know? But we've decided to get back on the horse and continue our quest of coming out with daily or nearly daily uploads, depending on schedule. Enough caveats aside. Daily-ish uploads on all the players around the RLCS, because really the objective when we started this was to make sure that we have content on every player in the RLCS, so we have an informed opinion. And today we are forming our opinion on a new and up-and-coming talent in Tawk. Tawk is Canadian, and I know that because the first time I ever heard of Tawk was him playing alongside JKnaps on behalf of the Nova Scotian team in some Canadian national event. I don't know what the actual title of it was, but there were some other teams, like I know Leth had a team and he was playing in it, and Tawk really put on a show there, and I was like, huh, interesting. Went and watched some gameplay, really loved his passing, really loved how quick he can get up to the ball, especially for a prospect who hasn't made any main events. Definitely someone to keep our eyes on. And then in Shift Summer League, Tawk formed a team called Fun alongside Nitrous, who in this tournament is going by ZANDER, and tcorrell, longtime veteran of NA RLCS, and decided, that's an interesting team. Well, that's cool. A little bit more footage for Tawk in the future, and lo and behold, they ended up making the main event. They were in the play-in or whatever the Shift Summer League was calling that element of the tournament. Ended up being one of the few teams who actually qualified for the big boy portion of the event. And this is the first round matchup that we see here against Space Station Gaming. Champions Field, because this one actually went to a surprising Game 5. And they had a couple really tight series on day one. Day two is going to kick, I think, in like an hour and a half or something. But let's hop on board with Tawk and see what his playstyle is all about. Starting off with this Game 5 against SSG, and then we're going to look at POAB, and finally some other team that I can't think of this moment. But hey, maybe a little bit of something to look forward to towards the end of the video. So halfway through here, we are still scoreless, and SSG's defense is kind of falling apart here as Tawk went top crossbar and out on a pretty open shot for some reason. Tawk's now first man. LJ's going to pop, and pretty good defensive structure here by Fun to break out. tcorrell was all over this series defensively, 11 saves to his name, and Tawk was responsible for a lot of goal participation as he was on that Nova Scotian team. And in this series, he had 5 goals and 4 assists for this Fun roster. So he was doing a lot on that end, and his teammates were really filling in the gaps. SSG, as we well know, are a team who went to a major very recently and did decently well. Probably a little bit worse than they would have wanted for themselves, but hey, lands are tough. There's a lot of good teams there. But this team is definitely not playing around. LJ, one of the best players in North America, and Hawkser in Chicago definitely know, pushovers in their own right and what they have meant to the RLCS scene. So Tawk there is going to force Hawkser to pop early, and then is going to turn on the boost. And this one's getting a little out of sorts here as there's a tcorrell demo on the backside. But here we go. Tawk is on the ball in the midfield, gets the reset, and then is just going to drive into a dunk. Tawk, what are we doing? This is crazy. Gets the pop, is going to somehow pirouette, get a beautiful first touch onto a reset, uses every ounce of boost, and Chicago is just going to get dunked into the next dimension there as Tawk with an incredibly mechanical goal to open up scoring in a pretty important Game 5 here. In some of the replays that I watched previously, there was some ball chasing, had a couple, I don't know if they were from like tournaments or sanctioned events or whatever, but Tawk was playing alongside Evo and someone else, I can't recall who, but really didn't have perfect showings in big moments, which, you kind of expect to be a little waffly as a new prospect, but Tawk there answering the bell with a minute left against SSG in what's probably the biggest game of his you know, budding career up into this point. So huge moment there from Tawk. 20 seconds left, and ZANDER is going to fake low, aka Nitrous. Don't know how to call him, but let's look back at this one. We have Chicago on defense. I think this is ZANDER here. Another great first touch, and then is just going to totally leave Chicago with his pants down there as he goes underneath. Let's get back over to Mr. Tawk, though. Let's see how we're going to finish this one out. SSG's got to go, and it looks like Hawkser is going to try and get one back here. Tawk up early, goes backboard, and then, you know, LJ's just going to go low. Won't watch that one back, but Tawk probably could have stayed grounded there. But, you know, probably just how the team communication ended up going. Are they going to choke, or can they hold out here in regulation? It's a pretty good look. They're definitely scrambling back. Hawkser has nowhere to go with this ball, and Tawk is just going to crank it and then probably try and sneak one in. Doesn't matter. There's the series. 1-1-1 across the board on 3 shots for Tawk, as they are going to close out Space Station Gaming in a surprise Game 5 here. So let's go ahead and hop over to the potential closeout game of our next series and see how Tawk is doing against some of the best talent North America has to offer. Game 4, Pirates on a Boat, who became Moist Esports and then re-became Pirates on a Boat here in a Game 4. They're up 2-1 in this series, and they're trying to close things out here against our fun roster. You know, I gotta say, I'm just a little disappointed. I get that you got to put on your tryhard panties, but in some of the videos I watched previously, Tawk had some pretty clean presets that he was rocking, and today we just get chalk. We just get, you know, super fast anodized Finnick here, which, you know, I'm not going to be too bent out of shape about. Like, you know, it's not a 20XX or a Stocktane or anything like that. You know, the Vatira preset with the bluster bars or whatever, your bands, but you know, this isn't the most inspired decal I've ever seen by any means. On the other side of the pitch is 5UP, who we just recently put out a video on. If I have the time, I will put a little ticket here on the video so you can watch that video back. But another young and exciting prospect who just had his 18th birthday, I think a week ago now. And actually commented on the last video. That was pretty cool for 5UP to show up and say some nice words. But this is a pretty tall task here. Moist Esports, aka POAB, finished out the season on a high note. In the Open Qualifier 6, they of course didn't end up making the London Major, but they had a very impressive win over Genji Esports in the quarterfinals in order to secure themselves a top 4. Ultimately, it did not matter. I think they ended up getting bounced by G2, which feels like a pretty good guess. If anybody loses a quarterfinal, you have a pretty good shot of calling G2 as the culprits of who took them down. But Tawk more in his element against some young talent here. SSG are certainly more defined in their careers, but here we have Eris, who is a standout, Andy, who has been a young talent whisperer for several seasons now, and of course 5UP, who we mentioned beforehand. I'm not too familiar with ZANDER, aka Nitrous here, who is going to put away a gross double touch. ZANDER gets a ton of space, just picked up, wow, look, he's low on boost. That's almost a boostless play that he is able to get back to. Him and Tawk both can really rip those resets, you know, put a lot of force on them. And maybe that's a new meta, a new evolution for some of these younger players to be able to make the most and put quite a bit of mustard on those resets, regardless of the boost that they have in the tank. Really gives you a lot more flexibility and forces the defense to play a little deeper and really respect what you have if you can put those away with the same regularity that we're seeing from these players so far in the content that we've watched. Finds his way into the corner here. Tawk is going to read that. You know, I would have thought 5UP might take an additional touch, but he decided to just go for the straight shot, and Tawk was there to meet that. What are some of the puns you could come up with Tawk? You know, the obvious one of it kind of sounds like Hawk, Taco is a clear one that's standing there, but if he ends up being actually good, you know, what are some of the fun hashtags we're going to give out? I don't even know. So he's going to take possession here, get quite a few touches in on a dribble, tries to flick it, but Eris is going to get the dunk and take us the other direction. Xander with a huge clear. That one's going to sky, not going to touch the ceiling, so Andy has to track all the way back. Gets the boost there, but then Eris is going to come with the backside demo, and now we're scrambling a little bit. Positioned well to get that off, and then gets the pinch. He's able to get a touch before the defense showed up there. And this is in a dangerous spot for POAB. Let's see if they can break out of it. tcorrell too far back to keep the offense going, but a slicer by Xander, who probably is looking like he might deserve his own video in the future here as well. That one was upper 90s with force behind it, as they are up 2-1 on this POAB team, who, again, are trying to close out the series here, but the toughest game is always the closeout. Eris with the double. See where Tawk responds. On his own side, no boost, but is going to get the wall dash to keep up with that one. And Xander's in a super tough spot. He's going to get demoed to not even have a chance at that ball as we equalize underneath a minute. This is where, you know, these newer teams can pretty commonly struggle just trying to close out games. You know, it just takes one mistake, especially against strong teams like POAB, who can definitely punish you. Let's see if they're going to try and just play, you know, kind of back and with complacency, excuse me, or if they're going to try and push the needle here and close this one out in regulation. That's a great 50, puts 5 up in a tough spot, but tcorrell is way too far out of position to make anything on that. I stand corrected. He almost puts one on net. That one's on target from Tawk, but too far away with not enough power on it. Maybe could have tried to take a touch there, but I see what he was going through, try and get one through the smoke screen. That kind of doink ahead is something that Tawk is doing very consistently in the games that I have watched. Those plays where he's kind of ahead of the ball on defense, and if it starts to deflect, he can get some pretty high-quality doinks over the defenders that will kind of skim the team into transition the other direction. Also, he has some really creative kickoffs that I've seen previously. Maybe we'll get to some of those in the next game, as we have found ourselves into overtime here. Cool, calm, collected, saves his boost, touches that one out. tcorrell not getting awesome touches, but takes it down to the ground so he can get that mid boost and is just trying to force something as a 50. Tawk is going to force another 50 here, gets a bump on Eris, and is Xander there to try and clean up? No. He's actually the one on the ball making the play. Tawk with a big dunk in the midfield is trying to pick up the tempo here, as this one is kind of stagnated a little bit. And I like the idea to change things up. Doesn't seem to be too worried about the situation itself, but rather would try and do something that might force a mistake out of POAB here, as this one is going to float dangerously across the box. Trying to break out in transition is the team, but Tawk just cannot find any boost, and he decides to just park it here and scratch his nose while he waits for one to respond. Is he going to beat 5 up here? Is not going to even try it. Just tries to wait back. Called the bluff on some of the fakes that 5 up and Eris were trying to engage with, and now we're kind of out of position here. Is not going to get to that mid boost. It's going to rotate all the way back. No boost again. That might end up spelling danger here for Tawk if that continues to be an issue. And Eris, oh my goodness, almost put away a what was like a double touch. Man, Tawk is really having to be stalwart on his own defensive goal line here. That's 2 that literally made it to the line, and 3 is too many. We knew that Tawk was out of boost for probably the last minute of this game. He's out here and says, hey, I got to rotate to the corner to get anything. Xander ends up stealing it, and Tawk is just a split second behind the ball, as Eris is going to drop one from the ether right on the heads of fun to take them out in 4 here, as Tawk double savior medal, but could not find a goal. Xander was doing all of the scoring, and a lot of that was solo. tcorrell does have an assist to his name, but a reset for Xander, and the other one was that kind of push shot that he put into the upper 90 there. So Nitrous able to get on the scoreboard, but Tawk unable to get things going on the offensive end here against Pirates. Let's see how he is going to fare in a Game 5 against Dignitas. That's a team I couldn't remember, guys. We'll be right back for Game 5. All right, I lied. Game 4. I guess I guess since this is Shift Summer League, like they're doing a great job of getting everything together, and this tournament has been really well organized and maintained on the stream and all that good stuff. It's been a great watch, but I guess not all the replays are getting uploaded. They're kind of relying on those who are in the lobbies to get them up. So this one only has 3 of the 5 games on ball chasing, and one of the 2 that we're missing is Game 5. So a little Game 4 action here, as this one was, from what I caught of it, which I think was 2 or so games, I can't remember who else was playing, but this was really a dogfight. Not a series that had a ton of shooting opportunities, basically a ton of just jockeying for position and trying to find an offensive set, as this Dignitas team is kind of a pickup team. We did a video recently about Evo, and I'll put a card in the video here as well if you're interested in hearing our perspective on Evo. But Zanil, who previously was on Cloud9 last season and was recently dropped by that team, Cloud9 aka Omelet, which is Lion Blaze's team, and they decided to go a different direction. They actually are moving off of Zanil from the reporting that I had seen. We have a Zanil video out recently as well that I'll put here. But, you know, Arsenal is the only player who was on the main event roster to end the season. Evo actually got moved to the bench once Stizzy came in. And they ended up keeping Gyro, who Gyro was eliminated in the kind of play-in element of this tournament, playing with the old Peeps roster. I think it was him, Mist, and AJ as Tawk. There's one of those doinks we were talking about. Is going to send that up, pop that up for Xander. But they now have Zanil, who's playing alongside Arsenal, and Evo here, who was on the bench. And Stizzy currently is playing over in the European part of this tournament as part of Espartaco, I think, which is him, Dorito, and Dying, I think, is the roster that they're rocking with. So, you know, Stizzy's probably back home, wants to stay competitive, so he's on a pickup team, while Tawk is over here in North America, sliding one past the Dignitas defense to even us up on the scoreboard here. Xander gets a first touch pop. Evo is all over him there, and Evo did a ton of shooting over the course of this series. Not a lot of shots and goals to go around, but I think Evo had like 5 goals on 13 shots or something, which certainly led the way. Talk good talking with, sorry about that, good communication with tcorrell, who got called off of that ball. And tcorrell is going to try and slow the pace on this one. Something I was really impressed by tcorrell with in the games that I watched from them yesterday was his ability to use that Finnick as a big, heavy brick wall. He's not necessarily flipping dynamically into all of his challenges, really a lot of drive challenge and just straight line drive aerial challenges, just to try and place the 50s to where he wants them to go. So as opposed to necessarily just getting a beat or trying to get the ball out onto the other side in transition with like a dynamic flip into it, 50 or challenge or tackle, tcorrell is kind of trying to, like he did there, just position himself in a way where the ball will be placed into a scoreable or actionable spot by his teammates. As Tawk tries to doink that one out there, but tcorrell was a little too deep for the scoop. And another go-ahead doink. Here comes tcorrell in transition. Is going to get cut out, and this ball is kind of turning into a scramble here as Dignitas are getting a little bit nervy, but Tawk is going to flip it out, and Xander is going to wait to see if somebody challenges. Dignitas, I guess, all think the other person is going to go. Tawk's just going to go, yeah, and shoot that one out. Arsenal's waiting on the backboard. I guess Evo probably thought that backboard was going to hop out to that, but that is a pretty challenging ball to get out to, and Xander's going to make him pay for it. I was just in Reddles' stream, and a couple notes on players. I asked him, I said, you know, hey, NBA Summer League is happening right now. Reddles is unfortunately a Charlotte Hornets fan, which I feel just absolutely gutted for him. But I said, hey, Summer League is cooking. What are some young prospects that you're watching who, you know, haven't made a main event or haven't made many? And he said, you know, Tawk and Xander are the obvious ones that everybody is talking about, including myself now with this video. But he also mentioned Zanil as somebody who he was very surprised found himself into the open market. He felt like Zanil was part of the engine that made things really go for that Omelette/Cloud9 team. So Zanil, definitely a player to keep your eye on, and I recommend watching that video I made recently of him if you're interested in learning more. As this one, 0 seconds, Arsenal is going to try and pop to Evo here. What can he do with it? Tawk is just going to stay backboard, and this one is getting probably a little more dangerous than they'd like. Zanil tries to keep it alive. Is Tawk going to go? No. He's going to let Evo try and take. Gets demoed, and there we have it, guys. Tawk, 1-1 and a savior on 3 shots to his name to take yet another MVP, something that I saw him doing quite a bit over the ball chasing replays that I was looking at. Seems to be somebody who is often leading the charge. We didn't get to see a lot of the thing that really made me the most excited in watching Tawk previously, which was his ability to pass the rock. He is very gifted as a passer, especially those kind of ones where you're up on your own sidewall and you try and find a streaking man who's coming into the middle in the box there. That's something that he does very well. So interested to see the rest of the Shift's Summer League today and what outcomes we will end up having from Tawk and company. But a very exciting first look at him rather here. Maybe a name that we're going to be hearing quite a bit more. So excited to hear you guys' opinions on Tawk and anybody else that you might be watching. A very brief thank you prematurely to everybody who's watching. Channel's about to hit 100,000 views, which is freaking insane. So thank each and every one of you who are watching for viewing one video, even if this is your first one, or if you have subscribed and viewed several. I am so appreciative that the channel has gotten to this point. I remember back in the day being very, very excited when my video would hit double-digit views back when I was making NBA content at the very outset of this channel. So we've come a long way. So 100,000 is ridiculous. Thank you all so much. Who do you want to watch next? Let me know in the comments below. I have so many names cached up that I need to get to that you all have recommended. Those will be coming out soon, but was really, really excited to watch some more Tawk content. So that's what we have today. Guys, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and until next time, take it easy.